Our next two speakers also did come from Colorado, so this was a great session. Our next speaker is Jessica Touchard, and she is a VP in GeoSearch. And GeoSearch works with large networks of professionals who specialize in the dynamic mapping, locations, surveying, and engineering services. They help companies of all sizes help to hire talent, including technical management and sales and more. So please help me welcome Jessica.
Hello, let me see if hopefully this will just come on. This says locked. Oh no, it's not locked, but it's not up there. Does this need to be?
Yeah, I don't think that is. Yes.
Thank you all for coming today. While she's helping me with that, I'll make an introduction myself. My name is Jessica Touchard, and I am a recruiter within the Geospatial Technologies. GeoSearch specializes in helping companies find GIS professionals, surveying, engineering, LiDAR, remote sensing, you name it. Within mapping, we help locate talent for that. And so we have an interest in obviously meeting people who are looking for employees, but we also really want to spread the word to people in this outstanding profession about what companies are looking for, what the trends are, and of course young people just entering the world of geospatial and trying to kind of help with some direction on what might be in demand. By a show of hands, are there new college graduates here today? Or is that, there are a few? Okay, good. And then, so the rest of you are employed and possibly just checking out the trends. So this is the good news. This is the lay of the land in terms of just the national outlook. We've got a national unemployment rate of 4.8% right now, which is awesome. That means most people who want to work are working. And in North Carolina, you're just a smidge above that in terms of your unemployment rate, but in Raleigh, you're a little bit below. So that's an excellent outlook for anybody new to the job market or people looking to increase opportunity. The chart below is just kind of a general, I'm not telling you guys anything about this, but basically your likelihood of being unemployed based on your level of degree goes way down. Obviously, the more education you have, the more likely you are to be employed, and then also your income is likely to go up. So that's just a general snapshot in all professions. So geospatial is labeled as a high growth profession by the U.S. Department of Labor. And there has been huge growth they're seeing within the public sector. That's about 1/3 of the geospatial activity right now. So there's good growth there. And those are such things as regulated sectors like utilities, telecommunications, transportation, education. So those are the things that they're kind of looking at as public sector growth. But all of that public sector growth really revolves also around the private sector providing solutions or help doing that mapping. So that's 2/3, right? So they're showing the highest growth in 1/3, but really looking at the industry as a whole at GeoSearch, we know that so much of the growth and innovation is also coming from the private sector. They're expected to have an increased involvement in homeland security efforts, even more so than they do now. And because the uses for geospatial technologies are so diverse that we're growing at a rate of about 35% a year. So that's huge, and it's going across all types of industry sectors. So let's talk a little bit about the private sector and, is mapping a government activity? Absolutely. I mean, the government does a lot of mapping, obviously. But there are so many companies making that happen. The types of people, or the types of companies that GeoSearch is often working with are engineering and surveying companies. We work with a lot of consulting type companies or business services, possibly taking a GIS software such as Esri and tailoring that solution. That's the Esri business partners, right? Tailoring that solution to their particular client, which may be a utility or may be a public forest or whatever. So they are constantly looking for people with interest in a particular domain, who have a passion for that sector and really want to improve it and how they use geospatial technology. DoD contractors are a huge employer of GIS people. Commercial companies now are more and more having GIS departments. So Starbucks and real estate companies, banks, insurance is using a lot of GIS, of course, and always has, but now they're starting to bring that in-house and doing a little bit more on their own. Oil and gas, another huge sector that hires us, and government agencies. So when you're looking at the landscape, there's a whole lot of options to choose from. So then it comes down to kind of personal preferences. What's the most important thing to me in my career? How do I want to use this knowledge that I have about GIS? Is it the type of work I'm doing? Do I want to make sure that I'm doing analysis, for instance, or I only want to work with geodatabases, or those types of things? Or is it the domain? And what I mean by that is, do I want to work in forestry or defense, security? 911 safety is really important to me. So it's not as much about what I'm doing every day with the data, but it's about my end result. This is what I want to affect in our world. Or is it that I want to live in Raleigh and I want to live here and I'd love to do something with GIS, but I just like it and anything with mapping is good with me, but this is where I belong. And so as you walk through what do you do with your career, there's a whole spectrum. It's not only about the job that you're going to get, it's that you want the right job for you. So as you start to determine those personal preferences, you want to make sure that you're standing out in that particular community. So if you start to go on LinkedIn or Indeed.com and you look at job descriptions that are out there in your particular interest area, you're going to notice maybe some proprietary software, and those are many times GIS programs that companies use, or you're going to notice, boy, this particular sector really wants me to know a lot of AutoCAD, whereas in a different one, it's all about geospatial databases and SQL. So you need to kind of look at what you want to do in your interest level and see if you can find some buzzwords that are repeating in those job descriptions, that here's where I might need to widen my skill set, or emphasize, if you already have it, emphasize that in your resume. And then you can begin also by doing that to build a list of target companies that do what you're looking to do, or that are located in the places you want to be living. And once you have that, a list of target companies, and you can talk to other professionals, start to ask them about other companies they may know about that are hiring, or agencies that are maybe not even hiring, but that just do what you're looking to do, you can start to network through those communities and attend conferences. And I put good job because you're all here. But it's a huge, huge talent network and professional network for people of all levels to advance in their careers. And then if you have some company that you're like, wow, they're doing exactly what I want to do. This company, to me, looks like they have the solutions. Call them. Even if they don't have a job, call them, see if somebody will meet with you. Just want to know more about you. This is my passion. This is why I went to school for this. And they, that is so, I guess it's great to be a company that have people interested in you, and that that there's passion for what you're doing out there. And then those of you in school, obviously, if you have a counselor or somebody connected in the community, that's another great resource for you in terms of finding a first position or an internship. So once you've decided, I see something I want to apply for, I'm ready to get myself out there, there's always the dreaded resume. And it's really not your friend, if you want to know the truth. It's kind of a way to screen you out. So it's really important at that resume stage to be speaking to that employer, to try to have that passion we just discussed that you've identified come out in your resume so that they have a reason to really call you. They are looking for your skills, but not only your skills, because many people will be submitting resumes and they will have ArcGIS and they will understand SQL Server and they will know the things that you know, but if you can communicate somehow a passion or experience in that domain. So I've mapped forestry before, and this is why I want to work here, and this is how I got involved in this. That is going to set your resume apart from all the others with the same skill set. You want to make sure that that passion is coming through. And if you're having trouble identifying what that might be, that's another way to just scan the job descriptions nationally, even if you're applying locally, but look at similar companies and see what are they asking for? What are their goals with their GIS? What can I bring that I can see they're struggling with? And I read the job description for clues like FEMA mapping. I had a particular GIS specialist job where I was getting 1 million resumes when all the company really wanted was FEMA mapping, and it was like one little thing down here, and everybody had the skills that they were asking for, but they only called the people that said they had done FEMA before or were interested in doing FEMA work. So it was interesting. Those little clues that set the job description apart can be what sets your resume apart too. And then everybody needs to apply here. That's an unavoidable job search method at this point. We need to apply online. We're going to be applying to LinkedIn posts. We're going to be applying on company websites. It's the nature of the beast at this point. But when you do identify some companies that you're either have already applied to, you can start to reach out to people on LinkedIn and say, oh, here's another GIS analyst there. I'm going to connect with them. Or, and you don't really need to bombard them with questions about, have you gotten my resume and da-da-da. But just start to connect and see if you can start, see conversations that maybe they're having, or if you feel comfortable starting a conversation about something that their company's doing. But, that's a good way to network in a very non-invasive way is LinkedIn. Again, call the company if you see something that's just so interesting to you, you just need to know more. And then there are recruiting firms like GeoSearch, but there'll be local ones too, who can possibly get you in touch with employers that you didn't know about. We actually offer a new college graduate service that we call Jobs Search. So creative, GeoSearch and Jobs. And but it is a list of companies. We compile a list of companies, hopefully around your zip code. Here's who hires geospatial professionals near you. Now start researching and see what you can do on your own. And hopefully we can get you a name and an email and something like that. Now, GIS technicians come out of school and they're like, I want to do GIS and this is what I want to do. And there's a lot of them right now, especially at that entry-level to mid-level analyst positions. So sometimes in order to get your foot in the door, especially if you want to stay where you are and you don't really want to relocate, or you're targeting certain communities, a lot of times it's important to be open to gathering skills as you go. Many of our clients hire survey crew people, then they have GIS departments, and they have LiDAR, and they have engineers. So there's companies out there doing full service end-to-end geospatial work. So joining a survey crew, getting outside for a little while, or becoming a CAD technician for a little while, and getting to know those professionals within and letting them know, hey, I'm very interested to know how data is collected because I'm going to be, on the other side. That's what I'm looking to do. But I am willing to kind of see how all of this process evolves. So that's one way to get in there. Sensor operator. Anybody want to be in a plane? That can be an exciting first thing. And again, it really connects you to the geospatial communities. You'll be at the right conferences. You'll be meeting clients, and all of that is eventually brought into the GIS world. Development. GIS developers are in high demand. If that is an interest of yours, I highly recommend getting programming skills. I'm sure I'm not the first person who's told you this, because we are an IT community in a lot of ways. And those development skills and being able to tailor GIS to a particular client or a particular use is so important. And anybody wanting to get involved with that, I encourage. Sales, if that is in your personality, is another route to think about. Companies love technical people who can go out and sell and talk about their passion for GIS and why this is important. And bringing that to a company that is selling a product or a software is wonderful, but also even in a public agency that needs to sell their work and just say, this is why we want the funds for what we're doing. So all of that, those skills can be put to use. We're seeing a lot of system design needed, and those are people that love GIS and want to help others love GIS and set it up with workflows and things that help their company get up and running quickly without having a bunch of developers on hand. So system design is great. It requires some programming, but not as much as like a developer would do. You probably need to have Python and JavaScript on a light level and be able to understand how that works. But usually those companies have developers behind that if they need them. And then just the domain, if you speak other languages, make sure all of those things are on your resume and that you're looking for opportunities that can set you apart there. Now I'm just going to quickly go over interviews. I think all of you are probably skilled at these by now, but telephone interviews are usually the first thing that you're going to encounter. And the only thing I want to say about that is just to be sure that you are always doing those in a quiet place, that if you're on a cell phone, you have a good connection on your cell phone. Just the basics, really. Speak slowly, clearly. And then in terms of personal interviews, we are in a kind of a casual profession. Many companies are, they wear jeans to work. And for the most part, I say we're a casual profession, but I still recommend that you dress up for interviews. It's the best they're ever going to see you look. So just make a good first impression. Turn off your cell phone. Bring your resume with you. And then really try, as you're going through the interview process, to have some knowledge about what their company does, have some questions prepared, because the more you can make that interview a conversation, the more likely they are to open up to what is their real problem with the GIS, and you can go, oh, I solved that problem with this project, or I've done this and that. So those types of things tend to come out more if you can get a conversation going, and that can be difficult because interviewers aren't always skilled at interviewing. So sometimes the job seeker needs to almost take that upon themselves to make sure that that information gets in their ear. And I think this is the number one question that comes to me all the time. Just people call in and they say, I never know when they say, what are you looking for in salary? Should I tell them? Or is it this, long ago it was always, whoever speaks first loses kind of thing with the salary. And that can be still a little bit true, but really it depends is my answer. If you are in a place where you're not actively, or maybe you're actively looking for a new position, but it's not something that you just want to take anything, you need to kind of be honest. Hey, right now I'm making 55,000, and I could consider anything above that. And that's what you can say. But, if this is a $30,000 job, I'm not sure that we have a lot to talk about. So you have to be kind of realistic with yourself on what am I really willing to take if it's something like that. But most of the time it's just fair to say, I'm sure whatever you have in mind is competitive for this type of position, and I'm very interested in the job responsibilities, and let's go from there. So I think that's always a good way to leave it open. Payscale.com is kind of a fun little website if you ever want to go on there. I just did a couple for you in terms of GIS analysts is around 51,000 average. That's across the whole country. So that could be very different in different areas. It's hugely different in Houston, for instance, in oil and gas. So it just depends on where you are, but that's the median. And then in terms of entry level, what we see is usually between 15 and 23 an hour. That's what we're seeing for kids coming out of school, first job. And that's nationally too. I put together just a little bit of some information that I gathered at a conference that we were recently at down in Florida called MAPS. And they are very legislatively focused. They look at a lot of things via the federal lens. And these are some things that they see coming down the pike, which can be interesting to a job seeker. NOAA has a Digital Coast Act right now in Congress, which is going to be flying the coastlines, and all of that is going to be remapped, most likely. So that's something to be looking at if that is of interest to you. Pipeline and underground utilities seem to be really hot in terms of a market and revamping their GIS. We're hearing that from a whole lot of different customers. So utility experience and mapping that is huge. Infrastructure, we've all heard that. So that could be your traditional, we don't know yet how it's going to look, I guess, but could be your traditional, let's build bridges and roads and here's the money to do it, or it could be tax cuts. We don't really know what Congress and everybody's going to do, but that'll certainly fuel a lot of mapping, probably either way. And then the grid, energy, domestic energy, always been a good thing. Federal land inventory is, as long as I've been in geospatial, that's always been an issue. Does the federal government know how much land it owns? And so that's what that's about. And it all comes down to mapping. I did not know this until this conference, but the ACA or Obamacare actually has in the verbiage a geospatial information office requirement. And it had 814 provisions requiring or referencing geographic location. So that's huge for healthcare. 911 and the continued need to customize GIS, which is again that programming piece that we're seeing. And then this is just a picture. This was from a couple weeks ago on Indeed.com. Just in North Carolina, there was 345 jobs with GIS in it, available now. 8,000 nationally. LiDAR I put in there, geospatial. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity, and that's just on one day as a snapshot. Those are changing and, morphing all the time. So if you're in the market, there should be something for you. I think that's all I have. So, does anybody have any questions? Okay.